So, any sign of the welcoming party? Or even the war party? Any sign of anybody? Not yet? Oh, well, keep looking, keep looking. Oh! Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. We're here on Hargit in the Gruna Garu star system. This, in my Star Frontiers campaign, is the home star system of the Yazirians. And I thought it might be a high time that I talked about my Yazirians, because I'm curious more about what did you base your Yazirians on? Now we're hanging out here looking for some Yazirian group to eventually show up. My companion's going to keep an eye out for us. But I'm going to talk to you about what I did to try and make my Yazirians unique, interesting, what have you, and not just cookie-cutter Klingons, which I'm sure a lot of people did that, and I thought that was for me an area that I could improve on. I don't want to just make my Yazirians, a samurai warrior, honor is everything type of race. I just thought, no. So now, it's interesting to note, when I got into Star Frontiers, there was no Star Trek The Next Generation. We had no Lieutenant Worf to base anything on. And I just thought, right, what am I going to use for a warrior race who are our friends? Now, I had been reading Larry Niven's Ringworld Engineers and Ringworld books, and in there, Louis Wu, the main character, has a Khajiit companion who's a cat-like warrior guy. And again, as when I talked about the Hummas in my video where I kind of talked about how awful they were, I specifically wanted to make sure I'm not doing that very proverbial thing of the cat-like warrior race that are, you know, used a million times in a million different shows or stories. So for me, I thought, right, how can I make my Yazirians interesting and different? And I don't really know that I did. Now, I looked at the design of them and I thought, okay, we're talking ape-like guys with big flap wings so that they can do the squirrel landing, flying squirrel idea. So we're talking about, obviously apes come to mind. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, then if they've got these big flaps, they're obviously flying. They're doing a lot of jumping from tree to tree. So in their home world, here, Hargit, you can't see it in this particular bit of footage, but this world is famous for having big sprawling trees with intertwining branches, and they have little highway systems among the tree branches. I thought I was being super original, but then I was reminded that when I saw Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, the home planet of the Wookiees was very much the same idea. And okay, I could claim, well, that movie wasn't out yet. No, but George Lucas many times talked about how the original idea for the first film, rather than the rebels going down and attacking the Death Star, was going to be what we ended up with the Ewoks, where it was a land battle. And in the original write-up, it was the Wookiee home planet, Kashyyyk, with big giant trees and stuff. So I'm not being that original with my Yazirians and their giant trees. So I thought, okay, what else can I do? What am I going to channel to make my Yazirians interesting? And I think I was watching the Michael Caine 60s, 70s movie Zulu, and there was something in the sequences in that movie. Now, I'm sure it has a lot of questionable messaging by today's standards, but what struck me from a creative point of view, from a storytelling, I want to do something with my Yazirians point of view, I love the look of all the Zulu tribe warriors coming in and attacking and, you know, pulling back and doing all of these things and presenting a big challenge to Michael Caine and his British soldiers. And I thought, yeah, I want to channel like Northern Tribes of Africa thing, something in that realm. I want to go with that as the inspiration for my Yazirians. And I don't know if it was like, it might have been a Bugs Bunny cartoon or something like that of Dr. Livingston, I presume, where he's, you know, in an African setting. I remember either that cartoon, or it might have been the old Tarzan movies of the 70s. I can't remember. But there was a theme in the story of, like, you have been brought to the tribe and the chieftain is looking at you and you're going to upset him and insult him if you give him a gift, because you're saying, hey, I'm better than you. And what he needs to do is show, no, I am superior to you. And I liked that. I was like, yeah, that's something a player would never think of. I was like, oh, I want to be your friend. Here's a gift. I was like, no, don't do that. Then you're insulting him. You know, I liked the intrigue. I like that idea. And I thought, yeah. So with Yazirians, you're going with that pseudo-African tribesman possessions. Look at all of my finery. I am a wealthy man, and you need to show appropriate fear and concern about how much more powerful I am than you. I thought, yeah, that works. That's kind of where my Yazirian inspiration came from. I'm sure a lot of you used, as I say, samurai, Klingons, whatever. I'm curious what you guys went with for your Yazirians. You didn't follow the Zulu example like me out here in the Sahara, savannah. But what did you do? How did your Yazirians coalesce? What did you use for your spark? Now, with my Yazirians, I played around with different ideas of, like, okay, so we've got this African tribal thing going on in my head. Also, especially here on Hargit, I remember thinking to myself, okay, so they're a warrior race. How does that work out in day-to-day life? How do you have a civilization and also, like, run cities and bureaucracy and stuff? Because it looks great, the Yazirian warrior with his sword out and his big shield, and he's, going to go and tame the wilderness and stuff. Great, yeah, sure. And I really love how the Yazirians look in a lot of the artwork for Star Frontiers, working on a little gizmo out in the desert, or, driving, helming the guns on the top of the Explorer. That stuff's fantastic. But it did make me think, okay, but what about, since this is a spacefaring civilization, they're going to have other areas. They're going to have engineers and scientists and bureaucracy and stuff. How do they handle all of that? Now, for the initial, what is their society like? I thought, okay, I'm going to maybe have, you can decide to take the law and have the law protect you, or you can take the law into your own hands, and that's totally cool in Yazirian society. And I ran with that. I was like, yeah, all Yazirians make a choice in their life of, okay, I'm going to carry a gun and a defensive shield, and I'm walking the streets, I'm packing heat, and it's my choice, and I'm going to be running around, like running my life, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do when they reach a red light at an intersection, but that's for other conversations for another time. But I thought, okay, so some Yazirians walk the line of, like, the lone warrior, the soldier. I have my gun. I will take the law in my own hands. If you wrong me, I'm going to take it out on you personally. I'm going to use my battle rage, my focused single enemy, all the things that are in the write-up for the Yazirians. And this is my life. I'm carving out my life my way. Nobody's going to tell me otherwise. But if you are working in, I don't know, a library system or the scientific community or anything that is not immediately dealing with hand-to-hand combat on a daily basis, maybe you're kind of like, no, we also have a chosen upon military force that will carry the law to those who cannot defend themselves. And I'm going to be in that crowd. So all Yazirians in my world, starting with Hargit, always decided, right, I am either a lone warrior, I carry my gun and I'm looking after myself, or I'm going with the collective law system that we had all arranged and agreed upon as our society. And that made for what I thought was quite an interesting little tweak to their society. Like, okay, this is interesting. I once dabbled with even going weirder and it didn't quite work out according to math. I was watching a show, I believe it was called something like Love Laws or something like that, and it was how do different cultures around the world handle romance, marriage, raising a family, like what is it like in different parts of the world, how you've got arranged marriages and all that kind of stuff. And there was at some point they touched upon the idea of the probably mostly fictional but romanticized idea of, the Arabian Night out there with his harem of women that he corrals around and travels with and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting and different and whatever. And I was going to have my Yazirians work on that system, like a polygamous system. But I couldn't quite wrap my head around, like, okay, if you have, that might work fine in some, Tales of the Arabian Nights, medieval, fictional kind of flight of fancy. But if we're talking about an industrial, technological society like the Yazirians are, if they can get themselves up into space, I don't know that the women are really they're probably not gonna let that fly very well. So I started thinking, okay, maybe there's like a biological reason for it. Maybe males are less frequently born than females. Maybe it's like 1 out of every 4 children will be a boy and the other 3 will be girls. So their society requires that the man has to have all these wives and stuff. Yeah, sure, but as I started to go down that little path, I started realizing, but unfortunately that also means men are going to be pretty rare and probably protected and put in these little, cocooned, cushioned areas. Like you want to be a librarian, dude. You want to be a park meter attendant. You don't want to be going out there risking your life, because if you do, the line of our entire family is going to be in trouble. So I was just like, yeah, maybe this whole idea of the dude with his multiple wives, though it kind of resonates on the right frequency, the reality is just not going to work. You're going to have men are now rare and therefore really, really carefully coddled and made sure that they don't do anything dangerous, which is going to lead to a bunch of them being a bunch of crybabies. And I thought, yeah, this is spiraling out of control. Forget the idea that men are less frequently born than women. I think that's causing more problems than it's worth. So, but anyway, that was sort of the basic premise of my Yazirians. They are a warrior race, not based on samurai or Klingons or any of that kind of stuff. I went with, this African savannah, Zulu warrior, possessions and being proud, and here's how impressive I am. I liked that zone. I liked where I was going with on that. And I thought, yeah, let's do that. And again, I had this whole idea about these cities up in trees, and then I discovered, yeah, I'm just basically copying what George Lucas had originally for the end of the first Star Wars movie, so how original am I being? But whatever. It's something fun, right? And now, if I ever wanted to do that stuff, I could just easily pull any kind of images of Kashyyyk and just go, yeah, there you go. That's the Yazirian homeworld and stuff. But it's not very clear from where we are here on Hargett, but if you travel over that ridge of mountains, you'll totally see what I mean. There's lots of big trees way over there, right? Do you see any? Maybe we need to go further along that way, and then you'll be able to see them. I'm going to leave it there. Now, I just thought to myself, since I just talked about the Vrusks and the Hummas and the Osakar so much, it just seemed worthwhile. I should also talk about the Yazirians. Maybe I'll even talk about the Dralicites. We'll see. Because each of my races should get their own little moment in the sun. Is the sun coming up, or is it going down? I can't tell with Gruna Guru. It's very strange here. Alright, well, what do you think? Should we head out? You're going to stay there? They're going to stay there. Okay. I'm going to head out. So, until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.